Foodi pressure cooker. The best of pressure cooking and air frying, now in one pot. And with Tender Crisp technology, you can cook foods that are crispy on the outside and juicy on the inside. The Ninja Foodi pressure cooker, the pressure cooker that crisps.
Welcome to Digital Trends Open for Good, presented to you by Ninja, of course, makers of the Ninja Foodi, the pressure cooker that crisps. Ninja is giving away 1,000 of these pressure cookers to people that are in need in restaurant communities during the COVID-19 crisis. I'm super pumped to be part of this. My name is Justin Warner. I'm friends with Ninja, I'm friends with Digital Trends, and I'd like to be friends with you too. One surefire way of making friends is to give them a delicious summer berry pie. How do you feel about pie? I freaking love it. So, I'm going to be making a pie today, a berry pie indeed, and I'm going to be using the Ninja Foodi pressure cooker. And generally, people don't make pies in pressure cookers because it's a very wet environment in a pressure cooker. You generally rely on the liquid to build pressure and to cook it. But because this is no ordinary pressure cooker, the Ninja Foodi pressure cooker, I can make a pie in it, and I'm going to prove it to you right now. All right, so check this out. I have already taken the liberty of par cooking this pie crust. This is a pre-made store-bought pie crust because, well, it was easy and it was there. And as you can see, we've got some nice browning on there. It's very lightly kind of toasted. We've got some bubbling there. The reason we're doing that is because we need to have a cooked thing for our pie filling, the best part of the pie if you ask me, to live in. So I've got that here. Let's start working on the filling, shall we? I'm pretty excited about this. In the bowl, I've got some grated apple. I've also got some lemon juice in there. The reason we've got that is because berries, a whole quart of them, have a ton of liquid in them. Now, when you're talking about berries in a way that you want to sound delicious, you would maybe say juice in them. But liquid is going to be the problem with a pie that we're making in a pressure cooker because this is not an evaporative thing. Normally, you would cook these in a pot. You would let it reduce for some amount of time. You would then put that cooked filling into the pie pan or the pie tin, and you would hope that it comes out all right. Well, I've created some shortcuts here, and part of that is in that grated apple. Grated apples contain a ton of pectin, and pectin is basically what makes jellies gel. It makes them turn from a liquid to a solid. But more on that later. So here I have my quart of mixed berries. I've got strawberries, raspberries, blueberries. You can probably use whatever sort of berries you want, as long as it sticks to a quart, although I have not tested it. All right, those are going in the bowl. We got some stragglers. That looks pretty good. Next, let's add our sugar. I've got 1 cup of regular old white sugar. A lot of pie recipes are going to call for a lot more sugar, but I like to let the sweetness of the berries shine. And I also find that desserts that don't have the right balance of sweetness and acidity are really just kind of no fun for me. They become kind of boring to eat. There's no give and take between your palate and the dish. Then we're going to add, interestingly enough, some cassava flour. So cassava is the same root from which tapioca is derived, and it's a really great thickener for pie fillings. And also you will find out that you can use this in all sorts of gluten-free baking things. You could even probably make a pie crust out of this that would be gluten-free, if you were into that sort of thing. For me, it's going to mitigate some of the liquid that we're going to lose from the berries during the cooking process so we don't sog out the pie. Personally, though, I don't really care if a pie is soggy or not, as long as I'm not paying for it. Ha ha! How about that? All right, so that's going in the bowl. Now we're going to add, also, somewhat controversially, some chia seeds. So the chia seeds are going to help absorb some of the moisture. If you've ever had a chia seed beverage, you'll notice that they absorb a little liquid in the membrane around them and kind of become this sort of slippery, fun thing to eat. This is also going to provide us with some omega-3s and some extra energy. And we also won't feel super guilty about eating a ton of pie, because at least we know we have some nutritive things in there. Isn't that right, honey? Aw, she nodded. Brooke, my wife on the cameras. Next, we're going to add some butter. So we have some richness to counteract the sweetness and the sourness or acidity of the berries. That's going right in there. That's about 3 tablespoons. And then let's see, what do we got? What do we got? I think it's just time to mix it up, shall we? Cool. All right, so you're going to see right away, you know, this looks very dry at this juncture, but sugar is going to pull all of the juices out of those cut up strawberries, and it will begin to moisten before your eyes. You can actually see that, how it's kind of turning into a little bit more of a homogeneous sort of texture and color. And I'm very excited about that. You know, this would probably also be a great recipe to use in a crumble if you wanted to top this with some oats or some granola. You could certainly cook it in the Ninja Foodi pressure cooker using the air crisp function, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm so pumped about this. So now that we've got this nice and mixed up and incorporated, you can see really the sheen that we're getting on there. We're going to plop it into the pre-cooked pie crust. And it looks like I'm doing this awkwardly, and I am, but it's only so that you, the viewer, can have a better angle of viewing all of this deliciousness. I'm very excited about this. Now, I haven't really seen, maybe it exists on the internet, but I did some searching. I haven't really seen anybody make a full pie in a pressure cooker, but I think I've kind of cracked the code on it thanks to all of the technologies that are afforded me in the Ninja Foodi pressure cooker. So this guy is going to go into the pressure cooker with 1/2 cup of water. The water is going to go in the pressure cooker pot. As you can see here, this is removable and dishwasher safe. All right. To get that pie safely in and out of there, I have developed, patent pending, a pie sling. Pie sling, just like that 90s TV show. You remember? The kids would sit in a chair and the pies would... I digress. All right, so basically you just wrap this up all Little Red Riding Hood, and we take it over to Grandma, the Ninja Foodi. We drop it in there. All right, now we're going to lock on the pressure cooking lid. We're going to make sure that the valve on top is set to seal. We will turn it on, hit pressure, high, hello, how are you? And then we will do this for, I don't know, 5 minutes. How about that? So this is actually going to take a little bit longer than 5 minutes because the timer starts when the device is at pressure. What is pressure, you may ask, and how does it affect cooking? All right, so have you ever read the back of a box of brownies and it says, well, at higher altitude you need to adjust cook time, generally you need to make it longer. The reason for that is at a higher altitude there is less air pressure, and therefore water boils at a lower temperature. If you increase pressure, the corollary is true. Water will boil at a higher temperature. Normally, at sea level, water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit or 100 degrees Celsius. In this little chamber right here, as long as it is under pressure, we're going to get up to about 220 degrees or something like that. How is this beneficial to cooking? Well, it's pretty unique in that meats, proteins that generally take time to break down, beans, for example, generally take a long time to cook, you're going to see a rapid decrease in the amount of time it takes to cook them. So, for example, a pot roast that might take you 3.5 hours in a slow cooker, you could do in about 40 minutes in the Ninja Foodi. Let's see, beans that might take you a day of soaking, you can go in there dry and maybe have them done in, I don't know, under 1.5 hours, something like that. Don't quote me on those things. Just buy the Ninja Foodi pressure cooker book that I wrote, and then you can literally quote me because I already wrote it down. So yeah, how am I so familiar with the Ninja Foodi pressure cooker? Well, that's because Ninja actually contacted me and asked me to come kick their tires, and I sure as heck did. I was very skeptical of the idea of electric pressure cookers. I always used a stovetop pressure cooker like perhaps your grandmother did. And I saw really no room for improvement. I thought oftentimes the electric pressure cookers were weird dimensions and had strange capacities. So Ninja talked to me about, hey, what would you like to see in this? And I said, well, what I would really like is, if you have a sear saute function, basically mimicking your stovetop, why don't you give me space enough to, say, fit 4 burger patties? Well, we settled on a number that happened to be 9 inches, so you've got a 9-inch width there. And oddly enough, this pie tin is 9 inches. How about that? So some pretty cool stuff there from Ninja. They listened to what I had to say, and I think it's very unique to hear a company that is incorporating feedback from the people who will probably end up using it. And it's also so cool to work with a company that is giving away 1,000 of these to the people in communities that are being hit hardest currently. So why do I have this other pie tin? Well, it's not because we're going to make a second pie. It's because we're going to use this to make the top for this pie. A lot of times, sometimes you'll see it on the back of a pie package, sometimes you won't, but it's like a little secret. Big Pie Inc., I think, doesn't want you to know. You can actually, oh, listen, you can hear the steam coming out of there. So very shortly, the safety valve will pop up, and yes, it sure did. You want to come see the safety valve? This is a little red dot right there. That thing makes sure that I can't open this up and all that steam come rushing out. Safety first, my friends. Anyway, this can turn into any shape of pie dough that we want. We just have to work with it a little bit. So I have these resting at room temperature. Generally the fats in here are kept frozen or cold, which keeps them nice and rigid. But for us, we're going to roll this out into, I don't know, a 9-inch shape. I'm hoping for a circle. But my friends, I am not very good at baking or precision or things like that. I am a self-taught cook, and I never really had like a French chef beat a bunch of precision into me. I kind of like to get the job done. So, you know, even if this isn't the most beautiful berry pie on earth, what it is going to be, by the time that we're done, is a berry pie that we made using one device. And we made it in, well, not that long. I think we're going to be done in under a half hour. And I don't know a single pie recipe that is less than I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour at least. So we're rolling this out. As you notice, I don't have a rolling pin because, like I said, I'm not a very good baker and I don't bake very often. But you can use what's at hand. I'm using a, let's see here, pure roasted expeller pressed peanut oil bottle. And it's working for me just fine. All right, so how am I going to know that this is 9 inches, enough to cover our pie, without a tape measure or something like that? Well, we have the pie tin right here. The pie tin is 9 inches. I can line it up, see where I need to get a little bit more overlap there. That's right over here, so I'll rip some off, double it up on there, and then continue to roll it out. Now this might get stuck to your board. If so, just add a little flour. You can certainly re-roll it. These things are pretty darn forgiving. You know, big pie company, they don't want you messing up your pies. They want you to have success, believe it or not, just like the fine folks who made the Ninja Foodi pressure cooker. And speaking of success, it came to pressure, and now the timer is counting down. We've got just 3 minutes left until we have completed the pie filling, which is very exciting. Let's continue on with an egg wash. An egg wash is not washing in an egg, but washing something with eggs. So in this bowl, I have some sugar, about a tablespoon, 1 whole egg, and controversially, some kosher salt. I don't know, half teaspoon, something like that, teaspoon. I'm sure you can find the recipe below. Anyway, I'm going to beat this up. And while I'm beating it up, what do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about, let's talk about, if I'm a self-taught cook, well, how did I get started on all of this? One of my favorite subjects, yours truly. All right, so way back in the day, I was working at a great restaurant, and I actually wasn't ever a cook. I worked as a waiter for about 15 years or so, and I'd worked my way kind of up the gastronomic ladder to a position of excellence. I was a captain at the Modern, one of Danny Meyer's restaurants in New York City, under Union Square Hospitality Group, and that guy taught me pretty much everything I know about hospitality. Hospitality is different from service, of course. Service is, I have given you your things in a timely fashion and at a reasonably fair price. Hospitality is how one feels. It's the engagement. It's the human connection there. And long story short, I ended up applying for a TV show with no culinary skills and ended up somehow winning that. And then I got a big head and opened my own restaurant and kind of started my own hospitality principles. Ended up cooking there because I didn't have enough money to hire a chef, so I cooked the 9 things that I knew how to make, and hopefully on day 1 I could figure out a 10th and then an 11th and a 12th, and then an entire, well, 3 cookbooks coming soon. So, yeah, I mean, to me, restaurants, they can teach you so much. I think restaurants, for me, have taught me most about humanity in general and what we need from each other. Often is camaraderie, a good meal, and people that legitimately care about one another, just like Digital Trends starting this Open for Good thing. They care. Ninja giving away 1,000 pressure cookers. They care. It's just, restaurants are like a miraculous thing in that, think about how much more you could do if someone could do the sleeping, your sleeping for you, right? I would miss it, personally. Some people I know wouldn't. But restaurants function in that they do the feeding for you, they do the cooking, they do all of the legwork that is required to sustain yourself for you so that you can do something else. You can have a conversation, you can conduct a business meeting, you can zone out, you can read a book, you can have a great drink, you can get divorced, you can do so many things in a restaurant. And that's why I'm so bummed out that so many of them are being affected by this crisis. Look, we've got just 56 seconds left on our pie filling. It's time to wash this pie crust in our egg wash. We're going to apply it liberally. Your definition of liberal versus mine may be different. The bottom line is you don't want a ton of it on there because you'd end up with something like scrambled eggs on top. and scrambled eggs on a pie are not necessarily the best thing. I like the salt on this. If you want to omit it, by all means do it, but salt is the only rock that we eat. Think about that. Is a flavor enhancer, and I think that salt has its place on savory things as well as sweet things. And ultimately, the ingredients in a pie crust, to me, are savory. You got, what, butter, maybe lard if you want, flour. I don't know, maybe there's a little sugar in there, but not a ton. I like to think of pie crust as like the biscuit of the pie. It can go both ways. You could have it with sausage. You could have it with, I don't know, berry filling. You ready? All right. We are done here. This has gone into a keep warm function, which you'll see light up very shortly. Oh, man, just like clockwork. What that means is that it will hold your food at an appropriate temperature so it's not in the danger zone. The danger zone, though, is something that we should talk about some other time because we have enough talk about pathogens every day. Let's talk about filling. Right now, we're going to release the pressure from the pressure cooker. This might seem alarming to some of you who are not familiar with the process. Basically, it's like releasing air from a balloon, but pulling the tip of it so it goes. You know what I'm talking about? You were a kid once. Here we go. Oh, yeah. It's very gratifying, to me at least. And also, you know, the cool thing about this, because it's all contained in here and it's all releasing right now, this perfumes your whole immediate area with pie smell, which is not necessarily my eau de parfum of choice, but I could get behind it. I could get behind it for sure. All right, so once the safety valve goes down, which it just did, we can release this and we can see what we're working with. As you can see, we've steamed this, and oh my goodness gracious. I am very excited about this. Now, you don't get to see just yet. All right. Look at that. Looky, looky. How exciting. You see how we got this gloss, this sheen, how the berries are all kind of sticking together and there's not a ton of like liquid everywhere? Yet, as you can see, you know, a spoon will crush. If you look at that strawberry right there, a spoon will pierce the strawberry. So these things are all fully cooked, and yet they are coalescing together without a lot of drippiness. I'm very excited about that. We got some butter that's still trying to melt there. This is great news. All right, let us put the crust top on here. Like I said, it might stick, it might not. If it rips, we just call that built-in ventilation. Part of being a good TV chef, if you want to be one yourself, is learning how to turn your own liabilities and faults into an asset. So we got a little built-in ventilation there. I like that. Now, if you wanted to, you could go get a fork, and you could crimp the edges of this and make it super Martha Stewart-y. But me, I'm going for grandma who doesn't have any time, right? Because I don't have any time because, well, I'm live and I'm trying to do this and keep you entertained throughout. I'm going to cut a little X in there and hope that 4 and 20 blackbirds don't jump out. Beautiful. Now we're going to lower it back in to the Ninja Foodi using the pie sling. You know, believe it or not, there are like aftermarket versions of this when you can just use aluminum foil. Well, I digress. All right. Now, this time I am going to unfurl the foils, and we will drop the crisping lid down here like so. So, let's talk about what's going on right here. I'm setting this to bake at 400 degrees, 400 degrees for, I don't know, 6 minutes or so. You know, you can actually look here. It says lift the lid to sneak a peek. And that is a nice segue into what I'd like to talk about next, which is what's going on with this crisping lid. I like to think of this not as an air fryer, although you might have heard that term buzzing around, but more as a turbo convection oven. So what is convection? Convection is when you have a heat source, and then you have air blowing around the heat source to circulate that air around whatever your cooking chamber is. In the case of an oven, you know, it's something that you could fit a human in. In the case of the Ninja Foodi, it's something that you could fit a pie or even perhaps 2 in. So when you have the same size fan and a similar heating element, but less space, that creates this sort of turbo action where you can cook things a lot more quickly than you normally would. Convection, because of the circulating air, it's kind of like when the wind blows on your sweat and it feels cooler. It's an evaporative sort of heat. So it excels in drying and crisping things, which is what you definitely want in the case of a pie crust, and definitely what you want in, say, frozen French fries or something like that. And it's also really great for like vegetables. I tell you what, this thing is my sous chef almost every night. I just roll some vegetables in a little olive oil, some salt, pepper. Into there they go, and then, generally less than 10 minutes, we've got something crispy and delicious to eat. So, yeah, that's essentially what's going on here. You can use this thing for all sorts of other things. In my cookbook, I have a recipe for fried chicken. It's not actually fried at all. And if you're expecting, deep fried, fast food sort of results, you won't get them, and you won't get them from any air fryer. But by having the two things together here, the pressure cooker and the crisping lid, the possibilities are kind of endless, as I'm about to prove in 4 minutes when I unveil to you a fully cooked berry pie, or at least that's what I'm hoping. This is live. Who knows what could happen? I don't know. The proof's going to be in the pie. So anyway, while we're on the idea of hospitality and giving and understanding more about each other through food, you might see on the digitaltrends.com/open4good website that you can donate to the World Central Kitchen. And I strongly encourage you to do that for many reasons. Firstly, the World Central Kitchen was started by this guy named Jose Andres, who's a chef I think I've been in the same room and perhaps had a conversation with. I think I was hanging out with Guy Fieri at the time, and that's all I can tell you about that story. But anyway, the guy was known, and still is known, for having these insane, brilliant ideas about food and taking diners, like the outer realms. So he's like a, 2001 Space Odyssey, the food sort of chef. And yet, he can set the ego that might accompany that aside, and with World Central Kitchen, we'll go to a place like Puerto Rico, go to places that are in trouble, and make thousands of tuna fish sandwiches for the people in need. And so I think that Jose Andres is an incredible man, and I also think that World Central Kitchen does some really incredible things. And it would mean the world to me and to the people in need if you could support them. Because, like I said, restaurants are vital, not just to the economy, but to our emotional economy as well. Everybody needs a good meal every now and then. Everybody likes to be taken care of. And everybody, everybody likes to eat. I mean, come on, if you don't like to eat, well, that just sounds like a miserable existence. All right, so we've got 2 minutes left on this good guy. As you recall, I said there's this lift the lid to sneak a peek reminder there. We can check on this at any time. Because it's a smaller space, unlike my oven, when I open the oven, all of that air is coming rushing out very quickly. There's no air circulating inside of it. So this guy I can check on. No peeking. No peeking. Oh, it looks good. And immediately that heat is going to ramp right back up there because we've got air being forced into it over a heating element in a very small space. I don't know if it's apparent to you guys, but I love the Ninja Foodi for many, many reasons. But while I'm at it, this thing has a slow cook function. It also has a steam function. So if you were, trying to watch your caloric intake, this thing can do all sorts of stuff for you, and I'm such a big fan of it. And I'm so thrilled to be associated with a company like Ninja, who is also open for good. They are donating 1,000 of these to the people that need them most. And economically speaking, for a household, this thing can turn tougher cuts of protein, like say pork ribs or beef ribs, or heck, beef shanks, oxtail, things that are like the offcuts, they can turn into absolutely super tender, melt in your mouth sort of things. And then from there, check this out. Watch this. Say you put a chuck roast in here. You follow your typical sort of pot roasty sort of ingredients. You got beef broth. You've got potatoes, carrots, and onions. Celery, if you're into it. You put it in there. You pressure cook it for, I don't know, let's say an hour until it's fork tender. And then, out of nowhere, you drop some biscuit dough on top of it, drop this secondary crisping lid, and then you make biscuits on top of your pot roast. Boom! Guys, I have no patience. I have no patience. A lot of people know this. Before you look, guys, I've spent a lot of time with this thing, and every time it brings me incredible joy. But I got to tell you, I actually lived in an RV for a year. And in that year, I use this only as my exclusive cooking device. So I'm deeply familiar with what it does. And I was living in a very small space, and there's not a lot of room for error or frustration or anything like that when you're living in a 30 by 8, house on wheels. And so I worked day in and day out to make the cookbook for this while traveling with it. And I got to say, I'm so happy to present you results like this. Are you ready? I sure as heck am. All right, stand by. Oh man, it smells so good. My friends, pie from raw ingredients in under half an hour. How do you feel? I feel gosh darn good about that. Should we try some? It's like, oh my gosh, it's molten hot. You should really let your pies cool to room temperature before you eat them, honest to goodness. I know people say, oh, warm pie and cold ice cream. Cool, hit it in the microwave later. Even, I'm serious, put it in the Ninja Foodi under the air crisp setting and watch as it comes back to life. This thing on a slice of pizza, you will never cook a leftover piece of pizza any other way, I promise you. All right. I'm going to taste it. I'm just going to use a spoon because I'm so pumped about this. Before we dive in, I just want to point out the uniform browning of this. Part of that circulating air thing that we were talking about, that keeps this from, say, being overdone here and underdone here. This is a beautiful little hue. Tell you what, if I could color sample those, I'd love to make a little like silk outfit out of this. All right, without further ado, quit running your mouth, Justin. Oh my goodness, my friends. Look, we've got flakage. Ooh, Nelly. Look at that. Flaky pie crust. We've got some viscous juices. The blueberries have not ruptured, so they're going to be flavor grenades when we pop into those. Steaming hot, and it's time to devour. My friends. It's like I just got like an IV of peak summer. I'm shaking a little bit. We got the sweetness, but it's not too much sweetness. It's not treacle. It doesn't taste processed. We have a lot of the natural sweetness of the berry coming in, and then every time you hit a blueberry, it's like, hey boys, I'm here. I've got tartness. Then you've got the flakiness of the pie crust, which has been augmented by the egg yolk that we saw in there. So we added a little fat to this. So it's creating this sort of rinse and repeat in my mouth where I'm like, is this dessert or do I just want to keep eating it? Maybe this is my main course. What do you think? I'm super pumped about this. Look at that. So one thing before we go. This consistency is called a nappe consistency. See how it sticks to the back of the spoon? I don't know. It might come up on Jeopardy someday. Anyway, my friends, thank you so much for being here with Digital Trends, for Open for Good. Thank you so much to Ninja for making this happen, and thank them very much for sending 1,000 of these Ninja Foodi pressure cookers to the people who need them most. If you're looking for this, you can find it wherever fine appliances are sold. Remember, it's the only pressure cooker that crisps. I'm Justin Warner. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure you donate to World Central Kitchen down below. I'm signing out.